Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Treasures Galore once again. I want to apologize for my last video when I was going through Too Far to Walk. It was brought to my attention that there was a really loud sound in the video, which I did not catch, and I know it hurt a lot of people's eardrums, so I apologize. Once again, I have no idea what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm not really a YouTube guy. I'm just making videos just because I kind of want to put out my take on things, and I feel that people listen to you a little more if you actually make YouTube videos for some reason. So, anyways, I apologize. I do need to make another video going over the things that I went through in that video. I also made another video, the second part, finishing Too Far to Walk and kind of the things I've seen. Went through it, and I said a little more than I wanted to actually put out, so I might remake that video again. I am going boots on the ground. It just keeps getting pushed back. Work has been crazy, and there's a few more things that I wanted to tie up before I left, I guess. I've been working on this all for about a year and a half, so I'm the type of person that I'd rather research and make sure that I'm super positive that this is it, instead of just, jumping in the car and wasting a lot of money. I do live in the mountains, so I get to enjoy them, so it's not really about that to me. It's about me finding millions of dollars worth of treasure. So, and I think that is probably the smart way to go about it. Don't rush into things. Research. Make sure you know exactly where you're going. In my opinion, I think you need to tie all the clues back to the thrill of the chase. And once you tie all the clues from the thrill of the chase to the poem, this is what warm water's halt means, this is canyon down, etc., etc., you tie that to the poem, and then you tie it to a map. You lay it on the map, and it fits exactly with your starting point, the directions you go in the canyon, and then how far is too far to walk. And then right at that point of too far to walk, there is the no place for the meek, which is right below the home of Brown, etc., etc. That's how I feel you're going to solve this. Fenn has been very clear that you can solve it at home, and you're going to walk with confidence. The only way that you can solve it at home and walk with confidence is with the Thrill of the Chase book. I've said this before. The amount of rabbit holes that you can go down in the Thrill of the Chase is significantly lower than the rabbit holes you can go down without the book. So if you use the book, say, all right, this is all the places that Forrest mentioned warm. I'm going to tie that into waters. He mentions waters 4 times in one paragraph, talking about in the chapter Fly Water, talking about the waters of I believe it's the Firehole River. So if you use the book and do it that way, I believe that your chances are greater. Now, can you find the treasure with just the poem? Sure. Can you win the lottery? Yeah, you can. Is it likely? Probably not. I mean, just think about this mathematically. So, let's say, and I know nothing about statistics, but I know that this is going to be a really high number. So let's say you have a lock, and the lock has, let's say, each number, so there's 9 numbers on this lock, right? And when you scroll down, the number goes from 1 to 1,000. So you have 9 numbers, and each number goes to 1,000, right? It's like one of those keypad locks. And that's just 1,000. And why I said 9 is, think about each one of those is a different place on the map. So you have 9 different numbers representing the 9 different clues. And you have 1,000 on each of those numbers, 1 through 1,000 on each of the 9 numbers. So that represents the 9 clues. And so let's say that there's 1,000 different where warm water's halts, which there's a lot more, trust me, a lot more. There are 1,000 canyons, which there are a lot more, but I'm just being generous. So do the statistics on that, figuring out a keypad lock with nine different combinations, 1 through 1,000. What are the odds of you guessing the right one? I mean, the number would be astronomical, right? But let's say you have a way to eliminate a lot of those by using the book and going through it. The number still might be really high, but your chances keep getting better and better the more that you use the book. Because that's what he says. Read my book. Look for hints. And if you don't believe me, just look up hint in Terry Scant. The very subtle hints that are not deliberately placed to aid the seeker. He's talking about his book. Are there subtle hints in your book? Yes, if you can recognize them. I don't want to broaden the clues or hints I've written by pointing them out. Okay, so there's hints in there. I thought this was funny. And this was brought up, I believe, I think it was Sasha. I'm not quite sure. I might get that wrong. What I didn't expect was the number of people who immediately started searching maps and using Google Earth to locate their special spots. He's not talking about his. He's talking about theirs. So, I mean, he stresses maps, but then he kind of makes it look like you don't really need maps. You know what I mean? I brought the quote up about looking at the topo map, and he says you would be best served reading my book again. So which is it? Do you really need a good map, or do you need the thrill of the chase? Or, there's so many contradicting things. But anyways, let's keep going through. Hints in the book are not that organized. So I know people saying, well, there's a chapter called In Love with Yellowstone. Now, he said they're not deliberately placed in there to aid the seeker, so that can't be a hit, because that is obvious. Well, you're missing exactly what he was saying, and Calazars pointed this out. Bravo to you, Calazars. This quote right here explains it. You should start with the first clue and follow the others consecutively to the treasure. Hints in the book are not that organized. So, the hints are not organized. They're scattered about. He doesn't give you, okay, this is the first one. It's in the first chapter. They're not organized. The hints could be, yeah, In Love with Yellowstone. That very well could be a hint saying, yeah, this is obvious. Okay, start here, guys. He says there are a couple good hints, and then a couple of aberration lives out on the edge. So there are some good hints. So when he says In Love with Yellowstone, that very well could be that he's saying that, yeah, it is in Yellowstone. So if you keep going through hints, he talks about the book, a lot. So, like I said before, I am a book purist. So anyways, I kind of want to make a video, and its title's going to be Logic. And so I'm going to go through a few points. I'm going to do probably 2 or 3 more of these videos. Just what can we deduct from what we know? Can we use logic to determine anything in this? And I want to use logic to determine that the treasure chest is hidden in Montana or Wyoming. And I've used the book and told you exactly why I think it's in Montana with all the hints in the book. And no one has told me any hints pointing to New Mexico or Colorado, but that's fine. So anyways, so if you haven't watched my video about the treasure chest is hidden in Montana, please watch it. But there are some other things that I think we can use logic to determine this. So he got cancer in 1988, and he says that the place that he wanted to hide the treasure was in his mind, and he knew exactly where he wanted to hide it, right? So it is special to me, and there was never another consideration. I was going to make it work no matter what. In my reverie, I often find myself stealing away to that special place, and I always consider it to be mine alone. So, he is saying that it was in his mind from the beginning, 1988, right when he thought of it, he's like, bam, nowhere to hide it. Okay? So we can logically come to the conclusion that this place was found before 1988. And I'd probably get a few years before that anyways, because if it was just like, bam, right away, it was some really special spot that hold dear to his heart. And usually that's not like one place where you're walking down the river and you find a cool fishing spot. It's a place that you go a few times and, you spend some time with a special person there or something like that. So you build your bond with that place, I guess. So it would take, I would logically conclude that it would take, at least a few years to make a place special. So before 1988 is when he found his special spot. So the next one, here's a quote: "Are you willing to say whether the place of the treasure chest is the same one as you previously plotted to have your bones rest forever?" Yes, it is. Okay, so he wanted to die there. We know that. So again, it is a special spot. Here's the third one. "The clues did not exist when I was a kid, but most of the places the clues referred to did." Okay, so he's tricky. The clues didn't exist because he didn't write the poem, but then he says, but most of the places the clues refer to did. And he's talking about when he was a kid. Now, isn't that interesting that he's talking about these places not existing when he was a kid? I know he could probably did research and see when these things were around, but he said he knew exactly. He didn't have to look up any maps or anything like that. He knew exactly where to hide it, so he could just step on one foot and do the same thing, right? Step on your foot and go to the next clue. So he didn't have to look up any information. So he knew that most of these places were around when he was a kid. Now, to me, that just screaming, this is a place that he knew of when he was a kid. Well, I mean, why would he say that? But most of the places the clues did not exist when I was a kid, but most of the places the clues refer to did. So he's talking about when he was a kid and the clues. He didn't have to look anything up. He knew exactly. And yes, I get it. They might be landmarks or something like that. They're super old. I understand that, but just sticks in my mind that he's saying, yes, this place was found when I was a kid. Okay, so the next one I want to bring up is the quote that he was asked, and I should have brought this up before, but I didn't. He was asked if he would be so bold to say when was the time that Forrest, how old was he when he found the special hiding spot, right? And Forrest said that he didn't want to give that away. He didn't want to tell us that because it would give too much away. Okay, can't tell us that when he found it because that would be too big of a hint. Okay, now let's think about that for a second. Just think about that. If he found the spot when he was older, he had an airplane, he had a gallery, he had a lot of money to travel. We know he went to Montana. He would drive. His daughter went to school in Colorado. He's on the board in the Wyoming Museum and traveled up there quite a bit. You know what I mean? And he says that one of the greatest things he did was flying his airplane or landing in a place where he didn't know and renting a car and looking for arrowheads. So he loved to do that. So, I mean, logically, yeah, that makes sense that he probably could have found a special spot during that time of his life anywhere in the 4 states. That wouldn't give you any hint because he's went all those other places. He hikes the back hills of New Mexico. He goes in Wyoming and Montana, and I'm sure he's drove through Colorado a lot too. So it wouldn't give any hint to say that I found it when I was not a kid or in my adult years of life. But let's say that he did say it was when he was a kid. Now, to me, that would eliminate New Mexico and Colorado. Besides the parts that he drove as a kid, you know what I mean? So he drove a little part of New Mexico up I-25 through Denver and that area, Fort Collins. So if he would say he found it when he was a kid, that would pretty much say, hey guys, yeah, it's in Montana or Wyoming. That's where I spent my summers. It was, okay, we were in New Mexico, going to school, and then for 3 months, we would go to Montana and Wyoming and spend our summers there, the whole summers. So school in New Mexico, summers in Montana, Wyoming. So if you found it when he was a kid, it would be a huge hint to say yes, it is in Montana or Wyoming. It is not in New Mexico or Colorado. I mean, that just makes sense to me, right? And there's so much other things that just point to Montana, like like Montana Golden, treasures galore. He talks about Montana, talks about how he loves Yellowstone. If he's trying to say simplify, how would you get New Mexico or Colorado? Oh, he was sick. He couldn't, he couldn't get up there to hide his treasure in Montana when he was sick. He said he was gonna make it work no matter what. But he was one detail short. He didn't figure out one important part of that, and that was how to do it by himself. Now, if it was in New Mexico, he could have easily hit it by himself and killed himself. Easily. But going up to Montana would be a little harder, right? So he didn't figure that one quite out yet because he couldn't tell anyone, because you can't trust anyone. Because two people can keep a secret if one of them is dead. So, and then he talks about he had no greater freedom to get in his plane and fly north, and he said at least 600 miles, so that eliminates all New Mexico and Colorado. Leaving Wyoming and Montana. I mean, he just talks about Wyoming and Montana so much, so fondly, that if you were to simplify, those are the places that I would look. I mean, it really does make sense. And I know that Yellowstone and West Yellowstone have been searched to death, and I don't want to give too much of my salt, but what if it's not hidden exactly where people would think it is? You know what I mean? What if there is trees and water around? But what if it's in some place that you wouldn't really expect? And you'd have to follow the clues exactly to lead you there, else you probably wouldn't think of it yourself. That's just my opinion. So, if you're listening to this, Montana and Wyoming is where I would start. But let me reiterate this again. I know nothing. I am not very smart. Okay, not very smart. So for you to listen to me would be idiotic. Make your own opinion. But I'm just trying to bring up certain things that I've seen. And this is the reason why I think this way. And if you have a different way of thinking or see something else, if you want to let me know, let me know. I'm open. I will change my mind. But logically, Montana and Wyoming make the most sense for me. Now, if I figured out clues that led me in a different state, I would do that. But I'm using the book, and the book leads me to Montana and Wyoming. So, anyways, guys, logically, that's what I think. There's a couple other little things that I want to bring up. We're talking about where warm waters halt. He says that people have been there and not known it. They were completely oblivious to its connection with the poem. Searchers have been to this spot and not know. And the people figured out the first two clues and didn't know. So wouldn't logically that tell you that where warm waters halt is a place where people go probably quite a bit, and you'd be completely oblivious to where warm waters halt there. So if there's a place that brings you, it's somewhere where a lot of searchers go. So like Madison Junction and stuff like that. What if where warm waters halt's right there, but it's not necessarily the Madison Junction, if that makes sense? Or something along those lines, where a lot of people went, but they didn't really quite understand its connection and how it applies to the poem. I mean, logically that makes sense, especially from that quote. I mean, people have been there and not known it, so it has to be some area where searchers go, you know what I mean? Else, unless it was a town that they drove through or something like that, it has to be some place where you're there, something brought you there, but you don't really quite know. So I just thought that was really interesting. I think where warm waters halt is very popular place. but its meaning and connection to the poem is kind of hidden, and I think he goes over that in the book a little bit. And Too Far to Walk. Okay, so where warm waters halt is a known place. Treasure is hidden in Montana and Wyoming. Water crossing. So I believe that there's a water crossing, and logically, there have been what 5 people that's died in the chase. One fell to his death. I think 3 of them, and I'm not too certain, but 3 of them drowned trying to cross a river or floating down a river. Now, Fenn has ruled out steep mountains and precipice. So if he ruled out that and ruled out these other things for safety and told you to search with a partner and all this stuff like that, wouldn't he? If you didn't have to cross water, wouldn't he rule out, hey, you guys don't have to cross a river to get to my treasure? You don't have to cross fast-moving water to get to my treasure. He would have definitely ruled that out to save people. I know he would. But he didn't. He ruled out the Rio Grande, which is just one river in the whole search area. Countless rivers, countless streams, danger streams and rivers. But he didn't eliminate those. He just eliminated that one. So to me, there is a water crossing, guys. There is a water crossing. It'll be worth the cold. In the books and stuff like that, I know I'm not really bringing up the books, but I kind of want just to use logic in this video. In the books, he mentions Ford a lot. Miss Ford had an old Model B Ford. His brother had a Ford. He got a Ford. I mean, he mentions Ford so much. And then Too Far to Walk, he talks about in My Prehistoric Friends that they had a Ford and they crossed a little creek. So, I mean, I do believe that there is a water crossing. It just seems logical to me that Fenn didn't rule out that, and I think he would have if we didn't have to. All right, so one little last thing. That I think the treasure is hidden within 500 feet of a popular road or trail. So, I mean, he said many people had been within 500 feet. Now, he didn't specify if they were searchers or not. But many people have been within 500 feet. So that to me says that it's hidden 500 feet from a road. And I believe that there might be a really popular trail there, and maybe it's on the other side of the road or something like that, or something. You know what I mean? And people walk, and searchers get on this trail, and it leads within 200 feet. And then there's a certain thing in the poem which leads you off that trail, 200 feet to the treasure chest. It'd make a lot of sense if people found the first 2 clues and then walked right by it. Maybe there was a trail that was within 200 feet, and there was a certain spot where you get off that trail and go. 200 feet, I don't feel like it's in close proximity, but that's just my opinion. But I think it's valid. Okay, so yeah, so 500 feet within trail or road. Think about the poem too. And so I know people take Terry Scant with Marvel Gaze differently than I do, and that's fine. But the context of the way he uses that line screams out that either you're somewhere where you're not supposed to be, or that there is a lot of people around, and there's a very good chance that you might be seen with $1 million worth of treasure. So, you guys might have more faith in humanity, but I would imagine if someone was holding $1 million or something, that you'd probably get mugged or beaten or worse if they knew exactly what you had. So, anyways, I mean, why would he say, look down, your quest to cease, but, okay, your quest is ceasing, guys, but, Terry Scant with Marvel Gaze. And look up those words. I think that says Terry means hang around, Scant means few. Hang around very little with Marvel Gaze. Marvel Gaze with great eyesight, superhero eyesight. Just, Okay, there's those words, but and just. But, Terry Scant with Marvel Gaze, just take the chest and go in peace. So he's saying that's all you should do, okay, guys? You get there, you find the treasure, you don't hang around, you grab it, and you leave in peace, which means you don't tell a single soul about it. Okay? So, which I think might be another hint that, hey, it might be in Yellowstone National Park. Okay? Just take the chest and go in peace. So, peace and quiet, don't tell anyone, and he's going to have instructions on exactly what you need to do and say to make this legally yours and have the title yours. And maybe, here's a little thing about how he's going to know when the treasure chest is found. Well, it has to be. He wouldn't trust technology. There's no way that you can make technology foolproof for 10 years. That, and what is he going to do? Sit and watch the video all day long to see if someone comes up and runs up and takes it? Are you kidding me? That would take so much manpower. So in his original idea, he set up an IOU, but he feared his bank wouldn't be around. So during that time, that was the banking crisis and the Great Recession, right? So there wasn't too much hope and security in banks. So he took the IOU out because he feared his bank might not be there, and I believe that's because of the recession. So he placed something else in there. So I believe that in his will there's a certain something in his will that we will get, or something along the lines of his money that he has, something that's not inside of a bank or something like that, right? But like a Sitting Bull's peace pipe. Now, I don't think he would give us that. Would be cool. But I believe that there's something in his will that gives us something. And either that pays for the taxes of the treasure chest, or it has to give us a financial incentive to come clean about us finding the treasure chest. To me, money talks, bullcrap walks. So I believe that it is money incentive, and either he's paying for the taxes or he's given us something in his collection that's worth a significant amount of money. And that's just my opinion, I believe. Because if it wasn't money motive, he'd have to use some sort of tracking or monitoring device, and I don't see how that is feasible. But it might be possible, because he did go to electronic school in Biloxi. So, anyways, I kind of went on a few different things, but that's my logic, guys. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. Tell me if my logic's flawed. Tell me what you think. Send me an email. My email is kniff_ken@gmail.com, or at yahoo.com, excuse me. Send me an email. I'll put it in the description box below. So email me. I love to hear you guys' thoughts. If you want to send me your solve, go ahead. But my confirmation bias is pretty strong. So, I mean, it would take a lot to get me to change my mind. Until here in a few weeks when I go boots on the ground. I know some people are really looking forward to my solve. I gotta go first to check it out, and then I'm gonna release it. So, anyways, guys, that's it for this video. I will catch you guys later. I'm gonna try to put out those going through Too Far to Walks, and then I am going to make that video about my case for Montana, and hopefully some other YouTubers will follow suit and make a video about exactly why they think it is in their search state. So, anyways, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you for all the love and support. Don't forget to like and subscribe my videos. And I guess I will see you guys in the next video.